Hey, happy midday on this Wednesday. Welcome to the Digital Weather Desk powered by Century Next Bank. I'm Jared Floyd. Today it is essentially turned into the Digital Space Weather Desk. I have spent all morning trying to go through all of these photos that you guys have sent me. Y'all showed up and showed out yesterday with the Northern Lights pictures. I think I've got like 300 or 400 of them. It's nuts. Awesome pictures too. I'm going to share with a lot of those with you later today. I say a lot of them, a small fraction of them with you later today, and we will do kind of a full write-out about the possibility of seeing the Northern Lights again tonight. Here's the basic information, and let me let you in on a little secret. Space weather is hard. Regular weather is hard, but space weather is particularly more difficult. So there are not a lot of guarantees and promises. Do I think we could see them again tonight in our area? Yes. We're going to need a little luck. The geomagnetic storm would have to be as strong as expected. The timing has to be aligned perfectly, or at least ideally, with the optimal times to see them at night. And then, oh, by the way, we could see some clouds across the area tonight as well. So all of that plays a role. Your best chances of seeing them, obviously, the farther northern latitudes, and that even is critical in our area. I think southern Arkansas and portions of the Mississippi Valley, western Mississippi, near Greenville, probably have a better chance of seeing the Northern Lights than areas farther southward, say Colfax or Natchez, Mississippi, or some of those areas. And I still think that most of the region will have a decent chance of seeing them, but not necessarily with the naked eye like we had that opportunity yesterday. You're probably going to need your camera or your phone. Make sure you use the long exposure settings, and you're going to have to stay still because you're taking a longer picture. You're kind of opening up the camera and letting more light in to be filmed or recorded or whatever. Cameras, how they work. And so you're going to have to kind of stay pretty still. If you have like a tripod or something like that you can mount it on, probably ideal. If not, if you're looking at all your photos yesterday, you're like, why are all the stars blurry? It's because you're having to hold real still, and even the smallest movements can make it a little blurry. Be patient because, again, these types of things vary depending on location and time. I know some areas, some folks got out yesterday and they're like, I see a little bit, and then they got out 10, 20, 30 minutes later and they're like, oh, it's really vibrant now. Obviously, light pollution in our city centers are going to make it a little bit more difficult to see, or depending on your location, a lot more difficult to see. And then, obviously, the best opportunities is to look out to the northern horizon. Again, looking to the north is the folks to the north have the best chance. There's the outside chance that we could see it overhead. Again, yeah, Callie, it's a chance. Again, we're just gonna need a little bit of luck. And for folks that are planning on driving or heading out and about across the region, I just want to preface that, again, if you think regular weather forecasting is difficult, space weather forecasting is space. So probably a smidge more difficult. And to be honest with you, a lot of meteorologists in the South, there's a lot of us that have been kind of clamoring over this morning of just how tough it is to really forecast. So let's get into the specifics. How the heck does this happen? Well, we know about solar winds, or a lot of folks know about solar winds. Obviously, the sun's always sending heat and these charged particles through space toward the planet and toward our atmosphere. Now, we do have essentially this magnetic shield field around our atmosphere and the outer atmosphere that essentially protects us from most of those particles. But in many instances, the sun can send out these flares, these solar storms, where you have, or what we call, you've probably heard it, the coronal mass ejections, which is basically these big solar flares and these more concentrated areas of particles that are being sent toward the planet. And that's what we're seeing. And in fact, there's a new one that's impacting the planet currently as we speak. It was expected to move through our atmosphere right around midday or so, and there will be more impacts as we go through the afternoon and evening. Again, in most instances, those charged particles, if they kind of break through the shield, if you will, during these solar storms. They reach the Earth's poles. That's why typically if you want to see the aurora borealis, a lot of folks go into the higher latitudes. They take Alaskan cruises or they go into Canada and stuff like that. They obviously have the best chance and see it most frequently during these seasons. But every now and then you can get one that's strong enough that, in these G3s, G4 severe solar storms, G4 is a severe solar storm like we had last night, those particles can reach even farther into the lower latitudes of the planet. So again, looking at the collisions and how they interact in our atmosphere, obviously most of our atmosphere is made out of oxygen and nitrogen. Most folks think that the vast majority of our atmosphere is made out of oxygen, and they're wrong. It's actually nitrogen. Anyway, those particles collide with the oxygen and the nitrogen in our atmosphere, and they emit different colors of light. Oxygen provides more red and green lights. The nitrogen's more pink and blue lights. And that's kind of how things shape up. And speaking of shapes, obviously the shape of the aurora borealis depends on your viewing position and the overall interaction with the Earth's magnetic field. So if you were wanting to know a little bit more about the basics of the northern lights, that's kind of how it works. Now let's get into the weather part of things as we go into the evening. We are starting to see some afternoon cloud cover. Most of that generally should thin out as we head through the overnight hours. Do you know if we are at solar maximum? Yes, it's an 11-year cycle, and I think we are toward the peak or end of that 11-year cycle. I don't keep track of those cycles, to be honest with you, but from what I understand and from what I read, I believe we are at the end or toward the end of that 11-year cycle. I hope that answers the question, Jeremy. Again, clouds could be a possibility tonight. Radar Products is always made possible by Brown's Roofing. They have their clothing drive ongoing right now. Cold weather clothing drive. Go to their Facebook page for more information. Plenty of drop-off locations across the area, and then, of course, you can schedule a pickup if you have a big donation that you want taken care of. Temperatures have skyrocketed back into the 70s for most of us this afternoon. 75 Monroe, 71 Ruston, 70 in Jonesboro and Columbia. Some spots hanging in the upper end of the 60s. The dew points are starting to climb, too, so that's going to allow for some of this cloud cover to kind of sneak back in. Most of it, again, is mostly sunny to partly cloudy skies, and those winds still have been breezy at times out of the south and southwest. Jan, good evening or good afternoon to you as well. Check a Futurecast, again made possible by Bayou Power Sports I-20 Frontage Road in Monroe. That's what I'm worried about, is the cloud cover as we head through the night. I would generally expect us to see some clear spots or at least some opportunities, but I am afraid that clouds could be a factor in your viewing potential tonight. Again, we're going to have to get pretty lucky, and it takes the almost perfect conditions for us to see the northern lights in this area, and that's what we got last night. Today, we have some stuff working against us. So for folks like Callie, when you asked this morning if I thought that we were going to see it again tonight, I was like, it's possible, but I have my reservations. This is where I have my reservations. First off, forecasting geomagnetic severe storms is really tough, and then on top of that, the potential for cloud cover and all that, it plays a role in the forecast as we head through the night. Again, if you have an opportunity to go out there and take some pictures, I want to see them because I live right in the middle of the city lights, and it's tough for me to see. And everybody's like, well, you can drive outside of town. We put the baby to sleep at 8 o'clock, and by that point, on most nights, I am wiped. If you have a 18-month-old at home, you can probably relate. Again, mix of sun and clouds. I know that you see the rain chances tomorrow or the rain pop up on the forecast. Not overly worried about that. I think most of us stay dry through the rest of the week. Precip outlook over the next 6 to 10 days. Jared, why do you keep showing these? I don't know. At this point, I'm just kind of scratching my head because we keep pointing toward the pattern's going to change. The pattern's going to change, but then the actual model data goes, yeah, it's going to change. It's going to change a week from now. And then the next day it goes a week from now. And then the next day it's like a week from now. And you're like, okay, well, we're halfway through this week and nothing's changed. It's like a week from now. It's like when you go to Hawaii and they tell you 15 more Hawaiian minutes, which is basically Hawaiian for we get there when we get there. I want to go back to Hawaii now. It's probably raining there. Precip outlook in the 8 to 14-day window. There it is there. Forecast high for today, mid-70s. Most of us firmly into the 70s already. Could see the upper 70s in some spots. Winds will be breezy out of the south and southwest. Lows tonight, mid-50s. Clouds will be possible, especially along and south of I-20. Not as cool. So, again, if you're heading out and you're going to spend some time outside, you kind of got optimal viewing temperatures. It won't be ridiculously cold. Mosquitoes won't be a big factor because it's dry and it's cool outside. So, if you're going to spend some time outside, tonight's a good one to do it. Daytime highs upper 70s to near 80 degrees, morning lows in the mid-50s. The rain chances early parts of next week start to sneak back into the forecast, but I'm not overly confident about those. I do have the rain chances a little bit higher for Wednesday, which is just outside the 7-day pattern. We'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, we do expect to trend soggier at that point, but yeah, that's just kind of where we are. Callie, before I go, you said, why are we so warm this time of year? I mean, we're above average. It's not, absurdly above average. A lot of this has to do with kind of the end of the La Nina pattern, which usually trends us warmer than normal. La Nina is kind of the opposite of El Nino, if y'all remember those when they were the big topic of conversation in the 90s and early 2000s. Those are they still exist. They're just, now everybody wants to talk about polar vortex and atmospheric river. We always get these super nerdy, weather terms that have been around for dozens and dozens and dozens of years, but then somebody catches it on social media and they think it's a new thing, and it's not a new thing. But again, we're kind of on the back end of a La Nina pattern, which usually means above average temperatures, below average precip, and boy, is that checked out. But we are kind of phasing out of that and should be headed toward a more neutral cycle. Going to take some time to get there. I think the coolest thing about this Northern Lights stuff out of everything is the fact that there's not many things on our planet these days that make everybody stop and just go outside and marvel at nature. And that was the cool thing last night. Everybody was kind of doing the same thing. Everybody's like, I got to go out there and take a picture. Or a lot of us were. And I think that's neat. Because, again, in this day and age where everybody's tied to their phones or tied to the TV screen or tied to whatever, for everybody to kind of stop and look up for a moment, that's cool stuff. All right, that'll wrap it up for the day. Again, not much going on. The focus is on the potential for the Northern Lights again tonight. Again, if you missed this, let the video reformat as the live wraps up, and you can go back to the very beginning. We talked about it there. I'm also going to have a full write-up here in about an hour or so, because I think that's about how long it's going to take me to write it. Kind of giving you a setup for the rest of this evening and what to expect in terms of the Northern Lights and what not to expect. Fishing game comes out at 8. I'll join you later this evening as well. I think that covers everything. You can always visit digitalweatherdesk.com for the latest. Download the app, available for Apple and Android users. And I'll check you later this afternoon. Thanks so much for stopping by the Digital Weather Desk, powered by Century Next Bank. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.